Okay, we're going to take you through a basic disassembly and reassembly of the Smith Wesson CSX. Before we begin, we want to make sure that no ammunition is present while we do this. We always want to keep the pistol pointed in a safe direction. We want to make sure our fingers are off the trigger and out of the trigger guard. And we always want to take the manual safety before you begin, press that upwards to the safe position. So now that our safety is in the on position, the first step in disassembly is we're going to remove our magazine. Next step is we're going to rack our slide back and lock our slide in the rearward position. And we're going to examine our chamber. We're going to examine it visually, and I always examine with my finger to make sure there's no rounds in the chamber. When the gun's verified as being fully unloaded, we can begin our disassembly. With our slide in the rearward and locked position, your next step is you're going to need some kind of punch or hand tool that will allow you to engage the disassembly pin that is inside the right-hand side of the slide release, and we're going to drift that out from right to left. And before we do that, we're going to align the slide. It has a disassembly notch. We're going to align the slide to where it allows this pin to pass through. We're going to use our hand tool, and we're just going to drift that pin all the way through, and your slide release on the left side is going to come out with the pin attached. From there, we're going to let our slide down the rest of the way and just drift it off the front of the frame. And we're going to put that off to the side, and we can lay our frame down. With our slide assembly off of the frame of the gun, the next step is we're going to remove the recoil spring, the guide rod, and the barrel. To begin, you just put some slight forward pressure on your guide rod and mainspring. And once it's relieved, just lift up and out. Now there's no spring pressure on that barrel, so all we have to do is push forward slightly, lift up and out, and remove your barrel. This breaks your gun down into the major components where you can clean it completely. Okay, reassembly of your CSX is the disassembly in reverse order. So the first step is we're going to take the barrel. We're going to align that in its recess in the slide area. And once it's down in, we're going to push it back against the breech face. And when you feel it lock in, you know that it's settled in place. Next, we're going to take the guide rod and mainspring, and we're going to align it in its recess, and we're going to put that forward pressure back on it again so that it drops down on top of the barrel. And when you feel it snap in place and sit in its proper recess here, you know it's in alignment and you're good to go. Once you have your slide assembly reassembled with the barrel, guide rod, mainspring in place, we're going to hold that firmly in one hand. We're going to hold our frame firmly in the other. We're going to align the keyway cuts on the back of the slide with the raceways on the frame. And once those are in alignment, we're just going to slide the slide back over top of the frame. Once you reach the back, you're ready for your next step of reassembling your slide release. So once our slide assembly is in alignment on top of our frame, we're going to put some rearward pressure of about 1/4 inch on the slide in order to realign our disassembly notch on the left-hand side so we can reassemble our slide release. So we're going to put 1/4 inch pressure. We're going to check our alignment on the left-hand side of the gun. Once it's aligned and you can look straight through and see the hole all the way through to the other side, we're going to take our slide release. We're going to slide that right back through the frame under the disassembly notch. And once it passes through, we're going to give it a good push, and it should snap in place. If for any reason it does get hung up, you can use a little bit of tapping pressure from a nylon hammer or something with a soft material. But on the other side, as you turn it back over, the notch coming through the recess hole should be in alignment and flush. To test it, you can move your slide back and forth and make sure that it's stopping in the stop position. You can also check your slide release mechanism by pushing your slide back and pushing up on the slide lock. With your slide assembly fully reassembled onto the frame, our next step is to relieve our hammer as well as put our empty magazine back into the gun. Our first step for that is we're going to make sure the gun's pointed in a safe direction. We're going to move our manual thumb safety to the downward position, and we're going to put pressure, rearward pressure, on the hammer as we slowly let it down to the relaxed position. From here, you can also rotate it back to the captive half-cock position, and that does arrest the trigger rotation as well. With your hammer relieved in the captive half-cock or the relaxed position, you can put your empty magazine back into your gun for storage.